What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Not Again with Dany Acosta. Today, we have the amazing, they call her the butterfly of the East Coast. We have Solmaria with us. How are you? What's up, girl? How you doing?
Hey, I love that.
Yeah, dude. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited. I followed, a little bit of, I saw your speech you gave to the graduating class of North Shore. Shout out North Shore Community College.
Yeah. Hashtag free college.
Hashtag free college.
Yeah.
Get your education on,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
No, it's a privilege to have you. So tell us, where are you from?
So I am from Salem, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Salem.
Mm-hmm.
Born and raised. I have so much love for Lynn, though. I spent a lot of time in Lynn. Lynn is, I tell everyone, it's my second home. So yeah, I love to, North Shore area is where it's my stomping grounds.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I know that you are an artist, right? Yes. What kind of music do you do?
So I do a couple different styles. I would say generally, though, I've been in the hip-hop and R&B space.
Mm-hmm.
I rap, I sing, I freestyle also, which has been really fun because it's very challenging. I like to challenge myself with, sharpening those skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to some super old school Eminem versus Juice tracks. Oh my gosh, it gets so intense. And I actually listened to one. I think it was Propaganda versus Blue, and
okay.
I think something like that. It was so good. And or I don't know if you ever heard of Tunnel Rats. They're really cool. But dude, so yeah. What got you into music?
So I grew up in church.
Mm-hmm.
From the age of 4 years old till, my mid-20s, I was in church. And I got involved with music ministry.
Nice.
When I was about 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
There was, this lady handed me a mic because I was kind of singing my heart out and from the pews. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, oh, here. And so I went up and I sang. And it was just like, I loved it because I only had ever sung at home. But my mom is, that's her ministry. She's a music ministry. And I always would see her sing and hear her sing and sing along with her. So, yeah, that's where I started, with live bands, live instruments, working with musicians and going to rehearsals and stuff like that was that's where.
What church was that?
That was the church, one of the churches on Chestnut Street, Fuente de Vida.
Okay.
Pastor Gladys Peña,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe she's still pastoring today. And, yeah, that's where I started. Yeah.
Nice. Always good to see female pastors as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely.
They have a different approach, and I think it's needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of young ladies out there that might be going through some things that they may not always or necessarily feel comfortable going to a man or a male pastor because of some of the experiences they had.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. I love when they're able to a woman's able to approach the comfortability is definitely significant for sure. Yeah.
What got you into singing? Like, I know you say you were at church, you would sing your heart out, but what was it about singing that you really got so engaged with it? What do you like about it?
I think it's the freedom of because the home life was not ideal, right? So my father left the home when I was very young. So my mom brought us to church. We leaned heavy onto the Lord, and that was part of me sort of like expressing, right? Because the opposite of depression and oppression is expression.
Mm-hmm.
So through that, being able to just like let those feelings out through music, through song, it was like therapeutic, So
yeah.
It was always a beautiful thing for me to feel that and experience that. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to get on a stage or on an altar?
Not long. I mean, I was little. I was six, 7. We used to do children's service. That was mainly where I would, they would give the kids part. Like they would have the intro to the service, devotional, whatever the case may be. And yeah, I quickly became, because I was one of the older kids. I quickly became like one of the leaders in that space for the children, and they would have me sing. I was really good at memorizing songs too. Like I would go home and I think I'm telling my age now, but the cassette tapes.
Yeah.
The the pistas.
The 8-tracks. You know?
I'm done. Oh man. Yeah, but like they would have like the little booklet on it with the lyrics.
Yeah.
And so I would go home because I would see my mom do it too, right? That was her method of like how she would practice if, certain songs that were popular. Like I used to listen to, I still do, like Yadira Corradin, Helena Gonzalez, Luis Santiago, so many like classic like Christian artists.
Yeah.
And I would take the cassette, go home, play it over and over and over again with just the, have no vocals on the verses. Like the hook would be there, the chorus would be there with the backing vocals, but like it was just you on those verses. So I practiced that from a very young age, which I find interesting because that has helped me now. But yeah, it was definitely just an experience, having that knowledge and opportunity to be able to do that was just really cool. I took that and kind of ran with it.
What are some misconceptions that people that don't go to church have about singers in a church?
Misconceptions. I would say that it's interesting because where I was at, because it was a very strict space.
Like a very conservative?
Very conservative. And like, I wasn't allowed to like listen to like anything that wasn't gospel. If it wasn't about God or Jesus, nope, I wasn't allowed. So it was a lot of like secular quote unquote music that I didn't really get to hear until I was like much older, probably like 15, 16 years old, when I was around my friends. But yeah, misconceptions about singers and stuff in church is like, that's a good one.
I'll give you an example, right? Like sometimes I hear secular artists say like, well, they're not even that good. They're just letting them sing because there's not enough singers in a church.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. I think that in some ways, like, I feel like that those comments come from a place of like what they've experienced or witnessed, right? Because I've been in situations where I have heard people who sing in church.
Yeah.
And they just kind of like, they're not, I mean, it's for God, right? But I feel like in my mind, I've always felt like, well, if it's for God, then I feel like you do have to bring your best. And you should be sort of like practicing and like, improving your vocals and stuff like that. Like sometimes it's, I don't know, I don't want to judge, but I don't know. Like,
well, I don't think it's judgment, right? I think it's, what is it? Criticism. Critique, maybe, yeah. Supportive criticism.
Yeah, constructive. Maybe?
Constructive, yeah.
Yeah. So I have noticed that there's some kind of like, well, it's just church, so whatever. So it's just kind of like they're like, the band is off. They're not following. Like the singer is one place and the band is somewhere else, or like the backing track is it's just kind of like messy. So I have seen that. Like I've seen both sides of like people who don't really like, well, it's just like, oh, it's for the Lord, so he'll get it. Like it's my, my offering to him. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
The Lord put this on my heart.
The Lord put this
and they can't sing at all.
And yeah, like, and it's crazy because some people can sing.
Yeah.
But they're just not like, they didn't practice. You could tell they didn't practice, or they didn't rehearse with the musicians, or they didn't, they're not. I feel like I don't know, for me, like, I care so much about this, especially when it comes to the things, like, when it has to do with God. Like, I just feel like there has to be, like, a certain level of, I feel like maybe, professionalism.
Right. Yeah. Well, take it serious, right? I think just because you're at a church and it's for God, like, that's a more important reason to take it more serious.
I think
that's more of a reason to be more intentional.
Yeah.
I have a friend, her name is Alejandra, and she's an amazing worship singer. But I remember when I was going to the same church as her, she had this thing where she's like, we're not going to use tracks. Everything's going to be pure, just all instruments, no tracks, no background this, no. It's all going to be pure, because she was under the impression, and which she was right, that they can do it. When you rely heavily on these tracks, it's like it becomes a crutch that eventually becomes part of your body, and then you no longer are independent. Now you're constantly depending on this thing, and you're like, without it, I can't do it. I do have so my pastor's name is Aaron Rios from Beverly, and we go to Garden City Church. Shout out, what's up, guys? But he wrote a book called Reclaiming the Heart of Worship, and within that, he talked about the input affects the output, which is what you consume will affect what you output, right? So it happens in our bodies. What you eat, you are what you eat, right?
Yes.
But it also happens with what you're exposed to. Tell me who you are with, and I'll tell you who you are, right? And it'll happen with the content. So from your perspective as somebody that, did sing in church and stuff like that, what are some pros and some cons of not having been exposed to secular music when you were in the church? And singing in church specifically.
Yeah, I think pros, definitely certain themes were not, not a thing, not in my mind, not, because, the mind is already a battlefield, right? So I feel like being so young, children and youth are very impressionable. Easily influenced, just can be convinced by whatever type of, and then some of these things, I pay attention heavy to lyrics, just because, again, like I told you, I would read these little, the pamphlet, the booklets, and the cassettes, or CDs too. And I've always been fascinated by that, like that storytelling, and, even like reading the Bible, right? All of the stories within the Bible, and all of the, the biblical figures that sort of stood out to me, like Joseph and Esther and so forth. So I put I've always made, even from, the age of 6, 7, those lyrics are sort of a big deal. So I would say the pros are kind of like preserving that innocence, especially as a child, right? Because it's hard to do that in this society. I think cons were that I was limited in sort of the sense of like, because there's a lot of great, there's a lot of great music out there, like funk and like, pop, etc. Because, growing up in a Pentecostal, primarily Dominican, Latino church, there was only like certain genres that the musicians would play. Like there would be like, sort of like that, as they call like merengue ripiao, I think is what they refer to it as.
Okay, yeah. Because
it was like kind of merengue, but not really. Because if it was merengue, then that's too far. But like, just stuff like that. Like, yeah, I would say the cons would be like the limitations as far as like the musical knowledge. But it's different. It's different in every church. I think there's. I spoke to, various musicians, and even now I'm just like curious, like, because there's my friends. I have a lot of friends that they did grow up in church as well, and they have sort of like similar experience as me, where they went through life experiences and sort of the trajectory changed, but the faith remained. But they talk about it too, and just like it's different. It's different from church to church. Like some churches care more about like the musicianship and making sure like, okay, we're gonna do rehearsals weekly. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Legitimately taking like voice lessons, making sure that the musicians actually do learn like music theory and they know how to read like sheet music, etc. Or they know even like what key are you in, what this, what that. I do everything by ear, which I really want to learn like more of the technical piece, but it's gotten me this far, so I think I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
Well, how much further will you get? Right, if you equip yourself with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and I want to take this. I'm taking this very seriously, and I want to take this as far as, as God wills, you know.
I was listening to a YouTube channel yesterday. It's Bruce Rivers, criminal defense lawyer, and he was talking about this artist. I believe it's like, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's like J-Bo, or something like that.
Okay.
Boogeyman. And he put out a song before he committed murder. Oh. But in the song, he literally talks about how he's going to murder this person. And then he goes even further and does a lyric where it says something along the lines of, and the labels have no idea how much money they're paying us to promote the killing of rappers. In other words, labels are paying rappers to promote this music that's having young black males kill other young black males. It's promoting gang violence. What are your thoughts about that?
I completely agree. I think that these labels and like the music industry is just in this weird place where anything commercialized, and if you listen to it, right, sex, drugs, violence, substance abuse, oh, let's get lit, oh, this, lean this, da-da-da, whatever, Molly, blah, 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 like, what are we doing? That's why, like, I'm a big fan of, like, I'm an independent artist, and I will remain an independent artist. I think that is not going to change ever, because also, like, once you sign over to these labels, you lose your creative control. Like, you don't have the same freedom. Like, you got to do what they want, pretty much. And they're going to tell you, well, we want you to do this, do that. Oh, this song was written. We have this song written out here. This is what you're recording next. And it's like, nah, man, I'm not doing that because I don't agree. Ethically, I don't support it.
Well, I think Taylor Swift was a good example, yeah?
Yeah.
She was forced to make certain kind of genre and certain kind of music with certain lyrics that she wasn't really for.
Yeah.
And she had to literally go back and reclaim, which is kind of funny with reclaiming the heart of worship, but she had to reclaim her music by re-recording it. It was her lyrics, but she had to re-record all of this stuff. And a lot of these songs that sometimes we look at, it's deteriorating the innocence of young girls.
Yes.
I hear a lot of, we live in Lynn and it's primarily Latinos. But a lot of times when I hear like reggaeton playing, unfortunately, not all, but a lot of it is demeaning women.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I think that it's a huge problem. I don't know. I think it's, how do I put it? I'm a little bit, because there's two sides to it, right? There's like demeaning women. I am 100% against it.
Yeah.
I do know that there are women and I've had conversations with them, and it's just like, whatever, it's just whatever. We're claiming it, and this and that. If we say it, then they can't say it. So then it's like, it's not a big deal. But I'm just like, that's not my ministry. So I don't co-sign that at all. I don't think. I mean, I as a woman, and I have daughters. Right. So I'm just like, I'm not feeling that. There's like so much. Music is powerful, right? So it's like, what are you going to do with that power? Are you going to edify or are you going to tear down? So that's just always like how I've felt about any art form, right? Like, what are you doing with that? Like, what is your message? Like, what legacy are you leaving here? Because music is forever. Once you record it, once you put it out, it will outlive you. So that's another beautiful thing that I love about music. It's like, so sort of, again, like the legacy piece to it. And so, yeah, I don't want to make music that's ever gonna like make anyone feel like bad or like less than, or like, you know what I'm saying? Or give anyone sort of the permission to insult anybody, especially a woman. Well,
I think that was a perfect transition in terms of like, now that you have daughters, right?
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3 daughters. So I have, my oldest is she'll be 13, and then I have an almost 12-year-old and an 8-year-old.
What changed inside of you as you progressed in having girls, and how did it influence your music?
I think it's interesting because before I decided that I was going to do music, so I told you a little bit about this off camera, but so again, like, we did discuss it right now too, so don't mind me. When I was from like age, between 4 and 6, when I was discovering that I had like this knack for music, it was just like, I kind of went through it, whatever, and so I got married when I was 22. through the church and everything, and started having kids right away. So ended up, I had 3 kids. The marriage ended. It was an abusive situation. Had to nip it in the bud. And so within that time frame, I would go to, I want to say it was probably like 2017 or earlier. It was probably between 2015 and 2017. They used to have, there's this movement called Rec Shop Movement.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Rec Shop Movement, because they're still, out and about. And I would go to their events, and it was very inspiring. And I was going through the worst at that, in that moment, and that, while I was like trying to navigate this.
Do you find the worst?
Mentally, just like thinking like, well, how am I going to do this by myself? How am I going to I didn't sign up to, because I came from a single parent home. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was always my dream to make sure that, okay, when I have my family, it's going to be, I'm going to have a husband, I'm going to be a wife, we're going to have kids, and we're going to get this really big, nice house, it's going to white picket fence, and we're going to live happily ever after. Period. No, that's it. So mm-hmm. in my brain, because this thing didn't happen because it was not successful, it kind of, it was a hit. I took a hit. I feel like it really.
Well, you mentioned you went through some of the abuse, and you had to nip it at the bud. Mm-hmm. What did that look like? What was the form of abuse, and how did it look like? And so I guess define the abuse, and then what brought you to realize, wait a minute, there's something wrong about this?
Yeah. So basically, it started, and it took years for me to really step away from that, honestly, and that's a big thing, but. I got married in 2010, and in 2011, I had my first child. And so, when I was pregnant for the first time, that was the first time that he put his hands on me. And it was a silly argument. It was over, finances. I had asked a question, and...
Not a silly argument.
Quote unquote silly, right? To me, it didn't seem like... it was going to explode like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I got really, really just, I'd asked him a question. I think he had lent someone money, and we weren't really in a position to do that. Yeah. So I made that clear, and then he snapped. Mm. And I had not seen that side of him yet. Because we had been dating, I think, or courting, quote unquote, because he was also in the church, mm-hmm. For 3 years, 2-3 years, roughly, on and off. And it was definitely, it was scary. It was just not, and then me being pregnant, I'm like, oh my God, what? So whatever. So basically, I'd asked him the question, he snapped, and then I was I walked out of the room, and then he followed me out of the room, and then just got, he got physical, and then, threw me on the ground. And from there.
How many months were you pregnant?
I was about, 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I was pretty far along, and it was crazy, because I was like, what is happening? And then, I reached out to, my youth pastor at the time, and he came over with his wife, and we were sitting there across from each other, my youth pastor and his wife were sitting across from us, and then he was just they were just oh, you gotta, you guys working this out, this and that. And then looking back on it, I'm I don't agree with that decision. I think the best choice would have been in that situation was to get me out of there, because he obviously was not mentally stable, but thank God I'm still here.
Yeah.
But just
and thank God your baby made it.
Thank God my baby made it too, because I was like, oh my gosh, what if she comes out mm-hmm. Birth defects, etc.
Well, a lot of men that are they hit that that snap, like you said, mm-hmm. they don't think about that, right?
No.
They think about, you disrespected me. Right. It's a very me, selfish approach. Mm-hmm. I personally think he should have gone to prison. But that's just my opinion, you know. And
Right.
I think now that I'm married, I put myself in those shoes, and I'm like, damn, if my wife was even 1 month pregnant,
Right.
even if she wasn't pregnant, I wouldn't lay hands on her.
Right.
Let alone that, because now you got to think about there's a being inside of your tummy
Yeah.
that's absorbing and observing everything
Yes.
mom feels,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that part.
How many episodes were there of this kind of form of abuse?
There was a few. If it wasn't physical, it was verbal, or financial or emotional.
Yeah.
At one point, I didn't. So I went into the relationship with a vehicle. The car was totaled. We ended up getting a different one. He somehow, because he didn't have his license when we got married, whatever. He ended up getting it because, whatever, eventually. He ended up somehow commandeering the vehicle that we acquired after my car was totaled. So I ended up being without a car. And me being a person of like hyper independence, you know, I grew up like I told you, like my mom was a single mom, and you know, I was very much like, I was always like on the move and figuring out like, how do I get this done? How do I this? So I was taking the bus when I was 12
Wow.
without her permission. Because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to ever have to depend on anybody or like feel like I'm stuck or whatever. And then, you know, fast forward to this like horrible marriage that I was in, and I'm like, oh wow, all right, this is what we're doing now.
So instead of your youth pastors helping you get out, they tried to salvage something that was not healthy.
Right.
And
Right.
instead of walking you guys through it, it sounds like they almost nurtured and enabled the situation to continue. Their intention was probably good,
Right.
but the impact was not.
Right.
Right? And so there's
Yeah.
two big differences there. Was there... So then you got pregnant again, right? The following year.
Right.
And then the third pregnancy, how much time went between the second and the third?
4 years.
Was it the same
20.
person?
Actually, not 4 years, 3 years. Yeah, same person. So he's the father of all three of my children. So yeah, the third one, she was a surprise. But she is wonderful, and she's definitely like my mini me, which
She's a bonus.
is so great. She's a bonus, my
Yes.
bonus baby.
Oh, so
Yeah.
beautiful. What's her name?
Abigail.
Abigail. Shout out to Abigail.
Shout out to
Oh my
Abigail,
gosh.
yeah.
All the Abbies I know have gone through it, and
Yeah.
they always turn out to be the most resilient of them all.
Yeah, it's
So
consistent.
how long after this third pregnancy did you say enough is enough?
Pretty much right away, because right after I discovered I was pregnant, because we had been in a situation where I had filed for divorce and we were like going back and forth on it, and then that was in 2015. Abigail was born in 2016.
Wow.
So like we decided, oh, we're gonna try to work things out, whatever. But as soon as he found out I was pregnant, it was like he was right back to his, you know, his old ways, I guess. I'm like, what? I, you know, should have known better type situation, but it is what it is. I think that everything happens for a reason, and that life is a miracle, and, you know, we're all born into this world with a purpose. So, you know, that's how I feel about that.
Well, I think you mentioned the phrase earlier that
Yeah.
we do see in Scripture. There's a time to break down and there's a time to build up. And there's certain parts of our lives that the Lord has to break down in us, has to remove from us, has to take away from us, and has to eliminate to build a sculpture we were meant and called and designed to be.
Yeah.
And so there are people in our lives that are seasonal, that are, and some were never meant to be in our lives. Some served a very minimal purpose, and some served nothing at all, just to harm us, hurt us, and take advantage of us. What would you say to all of those young ladies watching that are married and feel stuck, or are in an abusive relationship, but maybe they're anxious or scared to report this abuse about their partners, whether it's a guy or a girl? But I mean, in this case, right, it's specifically even a female who's pregnant.
Right.
What would be your words to them?
My words to them, as far as like, excuse me, is that there is a way out. There are resources for you, and you can make it out of it. You can do it. If I did it, if I got through it, so can you. I shout out to Hawk of Salem,
Yes.
Healing Abuse, Working for Change. They've been around for a long time, and they've expanded, and They've been a huge help and support for so many women and men and children and individuals who have gone through varying forms of abuse. So I would say, just reach out. There's call a hotline. There's always you can get out. You can make it out. And I know that for me personally, it took me years to really just make the decision, because I was kind of back and forth on it. I lost a job over
and a car,
that situation, and a car.
You almost lost your life. You almost lost a baby.
Yeah. It's crazy. There's it's not staying just because you want to keep the family together, or it's too messy, it'll get too complicated. Staying is not worth risking your life.
There's an old saying in counseling that we say, guilt over resentment. In other words, it's I would rather feel guilty that I left than resent the person that I'm with, trying to be the glue of this family. And in long term, I'm just going to resent myself the entire lifespan that I'm with this one person, all because I'm trying to put this picture of, but I kept everything together. No, you kept nothing together.
Yeah.
You forced everything, but like the old saying goes, if you have to force it to have it, you're going to have to force it to keep it. And if you have to force it to keep it, sooner or later, you're going to burn out.
Yes.
I mean, it's burning out even when it is a healthy marriage, let alone when it's toxic, right? It's really difficult. It's challenging.
Yeah, it's hard work.
I was in prayer this morning. We get up at 5 a.m. every day for prayer in our church, and we do a Zoom thing. Beautiful. And one of the things that I was talking about was fight, flight, freeze, but there's a fourth one that no one talks about, or very few people, and it's called fawning. Okay? So just to break it down very quick for all of our listeners, fight is you have a traumatic response through aggression. In other words, oh, you're going to talk to me that way? Boom, I'm going to punch you in the face. Flight is, oh, you're going to yell at me? I'm out. I'm going to grab my keys. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm out of this. I don't even want to talk about it. Freeze is I shut down. But I don't want to talk about it. And then you just say the whole silent treatment kind of thing. And then fawning. What is fawning? It's people pleasing. It's, I know right now we're not connected, but I have to draw you closer, and I'm going to love on you so that we can get on the same page. Now, a lot of men are very good at fight. Sometimes there's shame, blame, and guilt on flight or freezing. But very few men would dare attempt fawning with their wives. In other words, babe, I know right now we're going through it. Let me just hug you right now. Let me get closer to you. Because right now, we're creating a gap between us, right?
Wow.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's beautiful, because there's I feel fight, flight, freeze are sort of trauma responses, right? And then fawning is kind of I've never heard that, and I love that, and I'm going to use
It is a traumatic response, by the way, because fawning happens with people that usually they grow up in a very nurtureless environment.
Okay.
So their way to have control is, I don't have control right now. You're very angry. Maybe if I love you, you'll love me more.
Okay. If I love you enough, maybe it will fix it.
Exactly. Okay. But I'm turning it on its head, and I'm saying, no, if you are typically the aggressor, instead of fighting, fawn it. In other words, love your wife in a moment where you want to be aggressive towards your wife. Or even vice versa, right? Because sometimes the genders are exchanged, where the wife might be aggressive, but the guy's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a much healthier approach. And why create a gap?
Yeah.
Especially when you have 3 beautiful daughters,
right,
or even 1 kid. Even if you're just you and your partner. Right? Love on each other. It's not going to help being aggressive, flying away from the situation. If your husband or your wife cannot talk about it, they weren't ready for marriage.
Yeah.
You got to have these heavy conversations.
Yes.
They're not fun. It's not about, intimacy all the time, 24/7 and blah. No.
Yeah.
Marriage requires communication.
Yes.
And fawning is a part of that. Now, so you leave this person, and what are your thoughts on looking for somebody new? Because there's a lot of guys watching right now. And they're like, okay, butterfly glasses, let me talk to you. Throw out your social media real quick.
I am definitely, I'm leaving that one I think in God's hands for
Yeah.
sure. More like, but.
So that was a yes.
Yeah.
That was a spiritual yes.
It's a spiritual yes as I flip my hair.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Read between the lines, guys.
Jesus says.
Yeah.
Okay, let me say that.
Well, you know what? I think you're beautiful. You're a very intelligent young lady. You have three beautiful daughters, and the man that I don't want to say dares, but that's such a gentleman to come up to you, approach you, and say, not only do I love what you do, but I love every single one of your girls individually, uniquely, the same, just like I love you. I think that man deserves it. But if they do want to prove it to you, I think you know enough about life to know what to look for and what not to look for. And I think the strong, independent woman in you will filter out the losers that you don't need in your life, right? Yeah. Is there, at the end of our show, or usually towards the end of our show, we usually give a time because, guys, Solmaria is going to be performing 2 songs for us today, which I'm super excited about. But before we get there, I always give a time to all of our guests to honor somebody. Yeah? So somebody you look up to, maybe a mentor, maybe a parent, whoever it might be. What would be your words to that person? So directing yourself to the camera, who would you like to honor and what would you like to say to them? Time with you.
I want to honor my daughters because I know you said a person, but it's just, you know.
Yeah, it's okay.
I want to honor my daughters because and I didn't really get to like fully explain, but like with the whole like music thing and even going back to school, because I had them in my life and because, you know, they had to heavily rely on me, it was sort of like they motivated me to figure out what I need to do next. And to also do what I love because I kind of, like, I sat there and thought about it. I was like, what is the example that I want to set for them? Because they were watching me go through this situation of, like, you know, the abuse, et cetera. And, like, especially my oldest, she saw a lot of it. And I'm like, I don't want them to ever think that that's normal. You know what I mean? So, shout out to my daughters for helping me to refocus and reclaim my life.
There you go. Yeah. Beautiful. And one of the more challenging, sometimes even suspenseful questions, I would say. We're in a studio right now.
Yes.
If through that door walked in Solmaria and you saw her and it's the Solmaria the day or the week before she gets married, or maybe it's the Solmaria that was pregnant and just experienced physical abuse for the first time, what would be your words to her?
Run, girl, run. Like, for real. Definitely. Yeah. And I say that with a grain of salt, if you will, just because, like, you know, my babies, right? I couldn't imagine life without them now. But yeah, I think I would have definitely given her some words of encouragement, offered her a place to stay. Yeah.
Our last guest that was here, it was actually mom and 2 daughters who now dance for the Lord.
Yay.
And the first daughter, she was born out of, the mom was abused and she got pregnant through that abuse. Right. And the daughter was born. And the daughter said something along the lines of, I know I'm a product of that abuse. Right. And I told her, no, because the Lord could have taken that away, that pregnancy immediately. If he allowed it to happen, is because he had a design purpose for your life. So Solmaria, I want to tell you, both you and all of your daughters have a beautiful purpose. The Bible says, for you are beautifully and wonderfully made. And I believe that you and your 3 daughters are going to have men in your life. Not just spiritual men as pastors or leaders and things like that, or even spiritual women, but I want to be very specific with, there's going to be a man that's going to enter your life, who's going to love you for who you are, who's going to support you, who's not going to tear down your ministry, but help you edify your ministry, but is also going to love those 3 beautiful girls. So I want to just say thank you for being so vulnerable and open in this interview. And so we want to give you the time. So, dude, I'm so excited. Guys, why don't we just give it up? Do you want to shout out your social media before we get into the music?
Oh, yeah. So I'm on Facebook as Solmaria Música. And then anywhere else, like TikTok, Instagram, you can follow me at OMGITZ Sol. Or if you look for Solmaria, you should be able to find it. And then also my music, you can find it by my full name, Solmaria. So, yeah.
Nice. Awesome, guys. Make sure to follow. Go and support this amazing woman who's going to be empowering a lot of women through her music, but also through this amazing interview. So, Maria, thank you so much. And the time with you as we go into 2 amazing songs. God bless you guys. And remember to walk by faith and not by sight. We'll see you guys next time.
Poverty is not natural. It is man-made.
Hey, yo, Lynn, so much you're working with.
Captivated, confused from confronting conditions. Learn better late than never that I make my own decisions. Never the one to put myself in a position that I don't like. Yeah, things got to feel right. Peace surpassing understanding, yeah, that's the goal. Take the good, leave everything else, cause that will get old. Don't just buy what they sell. Tears in your eyes, just tell yourself, don't give up, don't give up. Don't give in, don't give in. Just hold on, yo. Words on his axis, but he feels like it just won't spin. Wake up each morning, day after day, do it again and again. No end in sight, yo, this just don't feel right. This just don't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. Day after day, works himself straight to the bone. Just to get paid minimum wage, barely scrape by, yo. Takes care of his own alone. They'll say work harder, but they won't show him how to work smarter. Blueprint of hood things will teach him how to feed his daughter. Caught up in plays gone bad and now he's a martyr for the streets and his kid, well, she needs to eat. And now she's fatherless with pains in her chest, yo. Don't give up, don't give up. Don't give in, don't give in. Just hold on, just hold on, yeah. Unhealed hurt, passed down, just wants to turn the page. All stacked up against her, just wants to cross that stage. Time after time she's reminded of her pain. Prayers up to heaven, bless my family. God bless my family, protect my family. Everything we need, please bless my family. God bless my family, protect my family. Everything we need, please bless my family. Couple years gone by, she's figured out her worth. Uses her skills, gets paid, it was her right from birth. She took the trauma, she made a change. She curved the drama, color Obama. Uses the lessons that he left her in. Instead of moving rock, she starts her own company, a side hustle, selling some stock. Posted things on TikTok, takes all the way off. Now she's making mad guap, but that ain't where she stops. Uses her newfound wealth, not just for herself. Fully aware of the cards that are dealt. When you're born into poverty, things can get real extreme. Deciding between whether to drink or to eat, yeah. Don't give up, don't give up. Don't give in, don't give in. Just hold on, yo. Don't give up, don't give in. Just hold on, yo. You can win again and again. Look.
However, as long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest.
Yeah. So that's Abducted. That is out now on all streaming platforms. And yeah, that was Mandela on the intro and outro, by the way. Nelson Mandela. This one's for all the little girls who were ever told they couldn't express themselves. Let's go. I love you, girl. Put it here.
Is that you?
Yeah. It's all eyes on me, yeah, let's get it started. Still getting carded, fresh face full of grace, and I'm big-hearted. Hotter than hotter, I'm a spicy mommy, yeah, but I stay cool. Don't do too much. Cooking on my rhymes since I was a kid. Red ray of sunshine, back of the whip. Ignoring conversations cause they weren't legit. Nah, Nah, escaping turmoil through my own narrative. Stories about the places that I wanted to live. Give back to my people cause they've been forgotten. Oh, perception, daydreams, protecting my mentality. Stay observant through discernment. All eyes on me, yeah, let's get it started. Still getting caught, fresh face full of grace, and I'm big-hearted. Hotter than hotter, I'm a specimen, yeah, but I stay cool. Don't do too much, make my own rules. Yo. Told me if I work harder, I'd be set. Put in work since 14, not there yet. Taking advantage of different ages, different stages. I put my pen up to the paper cause that's just outrageous. Gonna take much more to find my way through poverty. I'ma need a strategy, so I went ahead and got a degree. Single mom, bossed up, yo, that's all me. Hey, this one's for you, little girl. Please don't be mad at the world, cause it's our turn now. Yeah, it's our turn now. Yeah, let's get it started. Still getting caught, full of grace and I'm big-hearted. Hotter than hotter, I'm a specimen, yeah, but I stay cool. Made my own rules. Yeah, I do what I do. Yeah. So that one's not out yet, but that will be dropping very soon. Very soon, yeah. That one, I dedicated that one to little me. I think it's important to keep your inner child alive. And shout out to Chewy on that. He's from Lynn. And then the previous one, Abducted, that's by Lib. Both producers from Lynn. Shout out to them. They both moved to LA, which is crazy, but yeah, just had to shout them out real quick.
Awesome. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Dany.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow, that was so good, dude. Oh my goodness.